小都是哦 ，got it， 哦。它吃的东西呢却很小，都是海底的蛤蜊啦、虾啦，都是带壳的东西 ，small 都是 small 的，所以它每次可以吃体重3到63%到6%的重量。那你想那么小的蛤蜊，它要吃这么多的话，那得多少蛤蜊？这张就是讲座说它可以吃3000到6000个蛤蜊才能吃饱。我们看海豹、海象的 strategy 和看北极熊完全不一样，因为海豹只吃小东西，对我们也有伤害，但是伤害很小。而且导游说，海豹是一个胆小和温柔的动物，虽然看上去很大，并不凶悍。所以我们观察海豹呢，是在海上看，就在这些冰山中间划橡皮艇来观察海豹。这个海豹海象。你看它这2只牙呢，因为海底的蛤蜊并不是就在那儿，都藏在水草里边了岩石里边，所以它用这2个牙把蛤蜊刨出来，然后就用嘴一吸，它就像一个真空吸尘器一样，吸力非常大，就把蛤蜊肉吸进去，然后把蛤蜊壳吐出来，然后再吸下一个，再吸下一个。所以导游说，等他吃饱的时候，他身边就是一个小山的蛤蜊皮。这是一个小 baby， 这也有一个小 baby。他们确实是很温柔的动物和胆小。我们去的时候，他们都在冰上，我们一路过，他们就都跳到水里来了。这是2个海象在往水里跳，你看水花已经飞起来了。这个呢，就是因为冰山的形状不一样，所以你看这个冰山后面是高的，如果你船在后面的话，你就看不见它们。这就让我想起我们刚刚从秘鲁回来，在秘鲁野林观看的时候，阿马藏野林的时候，你每当绕过一个弯或者绕过一棵大树的话，就可能看见新东西。这个也是一样，你在船在这面什么也看不见，一旦绕过来，哇哦，这儿有一堆海象，这个就更明显。后面这大冰墙，你只有绕过来的时候才能看到这海象一个惊喜。我们来的时候，海象都是在冰上；我们走的时候，没有一个在冰上，都跳到水里去了。这一堆海象在水里，这个家伙突然就从水里站起来，对我们大声吼。当时我就想，这是不满意了，打扰他生活了。但我们在那儿也就是30分钟、40分钟就离开了。这个呢是海象在陆地上，他们反正是睡觉的，不吃就是睡，就是趴着，所以在陆地上趴着。这2个小房子是当年或者 research 或者是打猎留下来的，现在已经废弃了。导游说这一大群大概是有120只，所以加上我们在水里看的，我们这次大概是看到了大概200只海象。下面是北极狐鲸鱼。北极狐呢，都说北极狐是白的，北极狐是白的，但只是在冬天是白的。北极狐在夏天的时候却是这种颜色。你在这个照片就看得很明显。我们去的时候正是初夏，像夏天过树，所以它现在嘴巴、腿都已经变黑了，但身体呢还在继续变黑。这张照片，这个北极狐在这儿，你就可以看出来它为什么要变黑，这就是适者生存，变黑的北极狐就存留下来了。所以你想想，这儿有一只白白的北极狐，那它的天敌不一下就看见了，所以它夏天是变黑，也是一种自我保护和延续后代的手段。这个呢，我就在这儿加一下，北极熊也一样，大家都说北极熊是白的，其实北极熊的毛，这张讲座告诉我们是半透明的，并没有什么颜色，因为它经常在冰上，所以北极熊就是白的。如果它在粉色的灯光下，或许是一个粉的北极熊。这个是圣诞老人的驯鹿，我用了这个录像，这是我手机录的， 给大家显示驯鹿的生活，包括它在野地里吃东西。一会儿你还能看到它受到惊吓然后跑掉的样子，没有多长时间。这时候我们这边不知道谁弄出了动静，它突然就停下来，两个一起看我们，然后就决定跑掉了。最后越跑越快。然后呢，现在是看鸟，你这是能看见导游背了一个枪。其实这还有一个笑话，我们分队的时候呢，都是他导游团队大概有10几个人，都是一个导游带7、8个人、10来个人，这样好便于讲解，也便于提问。然后我们分队的时候，我发现2次，总有一个 gentleman 总是问他俩谁的枪法好，谁的枪法好，他就跟谁走，所以挺好玩的。这就是这个名字写在这儿了，你能看出来，我们看鸟呢，有的时候是在 hiking 中就是打鸟。这个是刚才一样的鸟，但它在湖心里面安了筑了一个窝，它在这儿抱窝呢。这2个呢是，这都是鸟的照片了。这2个，这个是公的，这个是母的，夫妻2个人在我们面前往前飞，被照下来了。这个呢是它叼着一个鱼，这是它水里的倒影。你看这儿看的不清楚，但看它倒影却能看见这个鱼尾巴，看的比看它还清楚。这个呢是他抓了鱼，他在后面抢。然后这个呢是这是名字哈，他们2个有2个红角，这个是在我们在阳台上照的，但是实际上我们 kayaking 的时候看见他们了，他们捉鱼的时候就头到底下，只有2个小红角在上面，在水面上，剩下就是不同的鸟，这2个没有见过，这2个已经见过了。这个呢是我录的像，就是这些叫 black lake 什么东西在飞，我觉得挺好玩的，所以就给大家看一看。这是我手机录的。然后下面是鲸鱼，这个是白鲸，白鲸成年的白鲸是白的，但是小 baby 却是黑的。这是我们在一个海湾看到，在一个峡湾看到的。你看它离海岸是很近的。这个是长须鲸 ，fin whales。这个看的时候呢，我们当时是在餐厅吃饭，突然有人喊dolphin，就是dolphin是什么？然后我们从窗户一看，一群dolphin，当时船是从右向左走，dolphin是从左向右游。就看一大群dolphin在我们船前游过，可是没有准备，都在吃饭，我就用手机照了张相，照的并不清楚，看到了，但没有照片，不跟大家分享了。这个你可以很明显的看到它这个 fin。这个呢也是我忘记说了，这看到这个看到刀分以后呢，大概过了10来分钟，就有人喊鲸鱼鲸鱼，这时候大家才行动起来，像温就立刻放下刀叉，跑到楼上房间里拿照相机，然后到甲板上照相，就照了刚才那2张相。我没有跟他们跑，我就一直留在餐厅里。这个是我用手机隔着餐厅的玻璃录的，你就看一会儿这儿冒出一个水柱，一会儿那儿冒出一个水柱。所以呢，根据冒出水柱的次数估计这个鲸群大概有10只，有10只鲸鱼，10只长须鲸。为了不，因为时间紧，就不给大家看到头了。最后你可以看4个水柱一起冒起来。我就说到这儿，下面呢我就把这个control 给温。他会讲一讲这个他的新照相机，还有摄影师，还有一些照片。 我不知道用多长时间，所以如果有问题的话，等他讲完再问，这样他和我可以一起解答，这样不耽误大家时间。如果大家对问题没有兴趣的话，可以先撤掉。That's yours.
Yeah.
You want to come here?
Just slide over. So
Okay, the mouse is here.
yeah, so hopefully everybody can hear me okay.
Very well, we can hear very well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me see. There's the slideshow. I never remember how to do this.
From beginning or from current?
Okay, slide. So what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about photography with the Nikon Z9. My initial impressions, to be honest, I got the camera approximately a week before we went on this trip, so it was a little bit of a risk taking it along, but there were certain similarities with the D850 that I had before that made it somewhat less of a major hurdle, so the learning curve is not so bad. So what I'm going to talk about is the camera a little bit, how it focuses on animal faces and eyes, and show you a few more photographs from the trip. So a little bit of history. I started off with digital photography using Pentax equipment. So in 2008, I believe the K10 came out. And one of the reasons I bought that was because it was fairly well advertised as weather resistant. And you see videos of people putting the camera under the faucet, etc., which I have never tried, and I don't think I would want to, but at least you don't need any weather protection with that camera, at least the 15 years I've used it, or 12 years, whatever it is. So my first Nikon camera was a D850. And the reason I wanted to switch to Nikon was the lenses, number one, for the Pentax, the long telephotos were extremely expensive. Number two, they were extremely heavy. And number three, I'm getting old. So I wanted to ease into old age gracefully, you might say. And the 500mm f5.6 PF phase Fresnel lens from Nikon seemed like the direction to go. So I went to B&H Photo. I said, I want to buy one of these. They said, oh, you've got to wait, but buy a camera anyhow. So I bought the D850. And I waited for the 500mm to come along. It took a couple of months. The second Nikon camera I bought was actually a Z6. And so I wanted to try that for two reasons. One, I needed a backup that was Nikon. And number two, I wanted to have a go at some video, because we've been talking about video for some time. And the Z6 is a little bit more amenable to video than the D850. And it takes reasonably good video with the native Z lenses, because they have stepping motors inside and they're very quiet as they change their focus. The most recent Nikon camera, the Z9, which I've had for about a month and a week or thereabouts, I wanted, for various reasons, not the least was that the 800mm f6.3 PF lens is out. Mine is on order. I don't know when I'll get it, who knows, could be another month or two. But that doesn't work on the Z6, or at least it doesn't have all the functionality that the Z6 has. And I did not want to buy a Z7 II. I mean, I think the Z7 III or whatever they come out with next will be the best thing. I'm being directed here. The certain features anyhow, which are really compelling for the Z9, which I thought would be good to have. And it has fantastic video capabilities. So across the bottom, I have the list of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lenses I have, and the teleconverter. for the Nikon system. So the key differences in the cameras, well, obviously the D850 is a single lens reflex, the other two are mirrorless. The D850 and the Z6 have mechanical shutters. The Z9 does not, it only has an electronic shutter. Some of the face recognition tracking are limited on both the D850 and the Z6. The tracking is not so bad actually on the D850, but it's much improved on the Z9. As everybody who knows about the Nikon cameras, the D850 is an outstanding single lens reflex. It's one of their better cameras. And maybe the D6 or the D5 are better, but in different ways. The Z9 is a combination of the high resolution of the D850, so 45.7 megapixels, with all the robustness and the professional build quality of the D5, D6 range of cameras. So it's a good combination. I think Nikon made a good decision in combining those types of features. The nice thing also about the Z9 is it has the same type of menu system as the D850, so it has the custom shooting and custom settings, A, B, C, D, on both cameras. So moving from one menu system to the other is not such a humongous learning curve. The Z6 has user modes, U1, 2, and 3. I honestly never got my head around those because I would update those and then I would go back and the settings would have changed, and it's like, wow, this is a never-ending pain. So maybe I'm doing something wrong with the Z6, but the A, B, C, D custom settings and shooting modes on the Z9 and the D850 is something I understand, and it seems to work fairly well. A couple of other features, I wrote some notes here somewhere. So the electronic viewfinder on the Z9 is brighter than the Z6. It actually has 12 modes of brightness, or levels of brightness, compared to, I think it's only 8 or 9 on the Z6. The quality of the picture is really good. You can easily shoot up to 6400 ISO. So I actually have it set for auto ISO, the upper limit of 6400. And you can, there's a software that's out there these days, even inside of Lightroom, you can easily remove the noise. So that's pretty good too. You can actually take 20 frames per second in RAW mode if you wanted to. I haven't tried it, but that is possible on the Z9. On the D850, it's, I think, 6, unless you have the special battery adapter on the D850, which costs a lot of money and I never purchased. But anyhow, that's still pretty good. The Z6, I think, does 12 frames a second, and the Z6 II maybe does 14. So they're getting there. One of the coolest things, and I'll show you this in a minute, is you can create focus areas, custom focus areas on the Z9, which is a good idea. And I've actually started using that. Firmware 2, which is what the camera came with, and now I'm on firmware 2.1. It supports those. It's very, very good. One of the issues that I was concerned about when I bought the camera, and that for reasons which I had noticed on the Z6, is the rolling shutter distortion. And so, one of the things in the Z6 is silent mode. So you don't have to have the mechanical shutter running, but you have some interesting artifacts. So on the left is a 200th of a second mechanical shutter photo of the ceiling fan in my office. And on the right is the same ceiling fan, the same speed, and the same shutter speed as well as the rotational speed, and that's in silent mode. And you can see that the blades are actually curved, and that is because of the way the image is taken off of the sensor after the shutter is fired. On the Z9, they've actually fixed this problem all the way up to 132,000th of a second, which is pretty short. So as you see on the left, is again 1/200th of a second, it's straight fan blades. And just for comparison, the Z6 in silent mode is shown again. So definitely Nikon performed some magic here in fixing the problem because there's no mechanical shutter to block the photons hitting the sensor. So the animal focus, so it's not just animal, I mean, it's people, it's vehicles, it's all sorts of things. It just can focus on anything you want, put it in auto mode, it'll figure out what's there and focus on it. One of the problems is it'll jump all over the place if you've got many things there, and it's hard to choose. So this is where some of the features I'll show you in a minute come in useful. But before we went away, we took our cat to our daughters because that's who looks after him. And she has a dog. And this is the first picture I took with animal face detection, just to try it out. And so on the left is what you see when you replay the image. So the little square on the left, and if I can figure this out over here, because I'm not sure you could see the mouse so well, but over here is the square from the image the camera picked up, focusing on this eye on the right. And then if we go to the next slide, this is the eye over here, and it's very, very sharp. It's really good. So that's nice. So we go to the next picture. This is the cat, not our cat, it's her cat, the daughter's cat. Again, on the right is the focus point that was taken by the camera, and this is the resulting shot. And if I click on here, you can see that is pin sharp as well. So that's really good. I mean, and you don't have to think about it, it just does it. It's really nice. Even when the cat turns sideways, it still focuses on the eye over here. And it's a sharp picture. I don't have a blow up of this one. I figured it didn't need it. So animal focus in the field, what it looks like in camera in the field. So here's a picture of a polar bear. On the left, we have this red box here, which is the C1, and C2 frames. You can set up, put them where you want, whatever size you want within reason. This is, I forget what this is. This is 5 by 1, maybe. I can't remember the scale. But as soon as the camera detects a face, it'll give you a white box. And on the right-hand side, I use back focus button and so AF on. If you hold that down all the time in AFC, so I'm in AFC up here, back focus is on, it'll turn green. It's one of the settings in the menu system, I think on the Z6 that doesn't, in AFC, it doesn't ever, it stays red, but on the Z9, it'll turn green. And when it's in focus. So you can see the bears in focus. And so if we go to the next picture, this is the picture that was taken in the camera. This is the square over here. It's basically the same position. So it's consistent, that's good. And this is the image on the right, and this is the image here, just to show you. So some sample photographs. I wanted to finish off by showing you some sample photos. One of the things that, of course, everybody asks is, okay, birds in flight. Does it work? Well, the key test, most birds in flight photos you see on the internet, the bird is traveling sideways. And that doesn't count, in my opinion. Anything can take a picture of a bird in flight. You can manual focus on that going sideways across the screen. But coming towards you is more difficult. So this guy here, it was the first bird. This is actually, what is this bird? It's northern fulmar. This was the first bird we saw after we left the dock in Svalbard, and so I figured, hey, I got to practice with this camera, and so I took some shots using the animal recognition, and the first one was blurred, but as soon as it cottoned on to what the bird was, everything was sharp after that. Later in the trip, we came across the polar bears, which Lan showed you, and ivory gulls. This is an ivory gull. Follow the polar bears and try and eat the scraps. And so this bird here was obliging and followed us for a little bit as we broke through some ice. And again, the focus system worked flawlessly. So what do the birds do? So the birds actually love the combination of the ice and the debris from the, you know, either from the pack ice, the sea ice, or from the carving of the glaciers. So this ice in front of the glacier here has fallen off the glacier face, and as it does that, the birds get very excited, and that's because there are little fish there, and the little fish, I don't know what happens to them. They basically go nuts, and they come to the surface, and the gulls can get them. So these are mostly kittiwakes, black-legged kittiwakes, and they are fishing. And so if I go to the next thing, here's a couple of them here. As you see, they sit on the surface a lot, but they also go under the surface. This guy here is underneath the surface. He was trying to catch a fish. I don't think he got it. It doesn't look like he got it, but that's basically how they fish. And I thought that was an interesting shot just to show you guys. And this is one of the kittiwakes with a catch. And you saw a photograph later in the series that Lan showed earlier with another bird trying to catch this fish from this bird. So they're very competitive. So that was cool to watch. Not all the birds, of course, fight around the ice. I mean, this is an eider duck, as in eider down. I don't know if you remember those things from years ago. I know I had one as a kid to keep me warm at night. The feathers from the underneath of the main feathers of this bird are very good, and they line their nests with them. So it's not a destructive way of getting the feathers. It's ecologically sound. So they fly around. They sit on the water and congregate. And on the left here, there's a female who's very popular, obviously, because there's 7 males there, all biding their time, waiting for whatever they're waiting for. And so what happened? There it is. So the birds, of course, they nest. This is a what's it called? A Galapagos gull, I think it is, if I've pronounced that correctly. And it basically makes nests on rocky cliffs and the like. And so we're lucky to find this one without actually having to climb up any rocky cliffs. And this is the sort of rocky cliff that they nest on. These are actually kittiwakes flying above. It's the same location. And I don't know if Lan mentioned, because I didn't catch everything she said.
In Chinese. Because
it was in Chinese. But all this greenery here, the grass and everything that's growing, is due to the birds. And in the lower right corner, you can see them. They are nesting, and they poop everywhere. And because they poop, all the phosphates help everything.
Fertilizer.
Keep the grass green and everything growing. So it makes it very colorful. Some of the birds choose not to
have the nest on the cliff, but on the ground.
On the ground, which is interesting, because you'd say, okay, why doesn't that wily old Arctic fox catch the egg?
I was wondering.
But they have a. There's another picture which I'm not going to show, but the partner to this fellow is sitting on some gravel a little bit away, trying to pretend that he is sitting on the egg. On the egg, and this is actually a Jaeger of some description. I'm not sure which one, but as you can see here, no, go back. Oh, geez, go back. Here is the egg that she is
on the ground. I really 那这怎么狐狸怎么没抓到它？
Yeah, it is sort of amazing to see that and to figure out how they can survive. But anyhow, the point I'm coming to is that the birds survive, everything survives, the walrus survive, and everything revolves around the ice, because it is, after all, the Arctic. And at the very beginning, Lan showed you a map with the dotted line on it, which was the southern limit of the ice in the winter. At the moment, it used to be further, and so these birds and all the wildlife depend on the ice tremendously, especially the polar bears. So, and the walrus, this is a couple of walrus. This is a fairly large iceberg that must have fallen off one of the larger glaciers, carved away from the larger glacier. So I think it's just a nice picture. And finally, a couple of landscapes. The immensity of the Arctic is incredible, and this vista I quite like. It's very solemn, if you like. I think that's a good word. It's nearly a black and white photo. There's a hint or two of blue sky in the background, but it's just so vast and cold. And I don't know if that picture depicts that or not, but certainly the vastness is depicted there. And finally, this is my favorite shot from the Arctic. This is floating mountains. And it takes a bit of looking out to say, okay, what is that? Down here is the front of a glacier, or several glaciers running across here. In the front is the ocean. Here's moraine from a receding glacier. And these mountains, this is snow basically and ice. And the mountains, when I first saw them, looked like they were floating in the sky. It was amazing. And that is the end of my talk.
I just want to say, sea is now the only one now. 并不是就一个冰川说，因为气候变暖，所以你看这个冰川也从海岸线说到这儿来了，所以留下了一片的冰迹。我们回来，我们临走的时候开就是结束会，然后一个导游就告诉我们说他们已经done everything for us， 让我们有一个有一个好的旅行，给我们讲座，给我们看各种东西。现在我们已经亲眼看到就是气候变暖对北极的影响，冰层薄了，冰川缩小了。如果这样继续下去的话，或许有一天起码是北极熊吧，恐怕就也会 distinct。所以呢，我和温说，下一个车一定买。我们其实已经很努力了，但是下一个车一定买便利的，给地球做一点贡献。Have you done?
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all from us. 非常感谢大家来听和我们一起分享，谢谢大家。
It's wonderful.
非常精彩。
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Wayne. Your last two pictures are so great, and you should publish it on 1x.
I'm thinking about that. I'm still trying to figure out how to publish those two on 1x, because that last one, the one that's on the screen still, it's still not to my satisfaction. Literally, when you look out of off the edge of the boat, you couldn't really see that. You had to really think what was going on. The camera pulls out the detail in the snow, which you couldn't see with the human eye. So this area over here, it's not in presentation mode. Anyhow, this area here.
Yeah, this is wonderful one. Actually, this one you can try like black and white. Also, maybe I think also will be equally great. It's really wonderful. The second one, and last second one also great. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, the second last one, that's a award-winning, prize-winning picture.
This one?
Yeah,
No, thank you.
that's unbelievable. It's breathtaking.
Oh, okay. That's good that somebody likes it besides me.
Wow, love it.
Yeah, I like that too.
Okay, thanks. That's good. Yeah.
The long explosion, huh?
Sorry?
Is this one you do the long explosion? Wait.
Long exposure.
No. This is most likely a 200th of a second or something.
Hey,
Okay.
why you do not like this one? It's not perfect.
Oh, I like this picture a lot.
Good, so that's good.
Yeah, no, I do like
Really,
this.
really good one.
That's why I showed these two photographs. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
You say you are on the boat when taking this picture too?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's wide lens, right? 16, 24. What is the
It's most likely the 14 to 24 lens, and it's most
okay,
likely.
14,
Okay,
yeah.
guess that
It-
because you
it's
can
so
see,
wide.
yeah, you can see the cloud and the water. You can see some like a neat lines to the mountain. That's really wonderful. Yeah.
The water and the sky merge together, and at the mountain or the mountain eye.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
那能够问点问题吗？
可以啊。
就是这些 polar bear 啊，还有是什么？主要是 polar bear。现在就是说有什么人去 actually tag all those animal, have like a tracker and just to see how they produce and any of the research.
They
就说
put-
像 when you taking the tour, like I feel like they know those cruise guide knows where they have a polar bear kind of like a habit in certain locations, or they have some way to tracking them. Do they know like
they-
number of polar bear like in general in their area?
The reason they don't is the polar bear is not like 小狐狸，比如说总是在路上，因为 polar bear 第一个 polar bear 非常大，就是那个项圈啊不好带。另外 polar bear 总是在冰上蹭和在水里游，所以他们几次把那个项圈带到 polar bear 上，最后都丢掉了。就算勉强没丢掉，那个 mechanism 也不 work 了，所以发不回去信号，最后就决定放弃了，所以没有人 track。
Oh, interesting.
they have the attack
你说还有就是说像现在就是说，好多flower 啊长起来了，完了就是说see the bird nesting in a cliff, have some kind of a twig or some kind of a grass, dead grass. So are those a bird actually not like a habit of there before? It's there now because 这个冰川啊 just is like all disappearing, and then so the lens is exposed. 完了就是说这些 bird is able to get there to nest and to just have a migrated to there. Did they talk about that?
The birds was Arctic birds. They were there. It's just the how many birds. Definitely, when the ice disappearing, ice shrinking,
Yeah.
is benefit to birds. That's what we when we were in the on the boat. The captain said that he will try his best not to break the ice as many as possible, because those lives rely on the ice. Like in the Nanji, the penguins love to break the ice, so it doesn't matter. But in Beijing, those lives rely on the ice. So even we went through the ice, the unfrozen ice, the frozen ice, he will try his best not to break the ice. So to answer your question directly, yes, we are trying not to break ice, but the environment make the ice break, make the lands more like the marine become the land with flowers. Those definitely help the birds.
Interesting. Other people have other questions, or I can ask some more. When you try to book this cruise, did you comparing some of those offered by like a Chinese tour guy in chatting group? 他们有一些什么 so like 北极 tour 啊 so like you know a different I guess cruise line offer of those tour. Did you compare those and the differences?
Not for this trip. We normally we would, but this trip we went because the National Geographic. When was the when how you say had the magazine for 30-40 years, so we were the loyal on the reader.
No, but I mean, I did compare different tours and the different boats. My understanding is that there's only 2 companies up there that can break the ice. The National Geographic is one, and there's another company which I forget the name of that our neighbors here were going to use to go on a trip, and because of COVID it got cancelled twice and they gave up. But there's only the 2 boats that can break the ice. Most of the boats that go up there just go up and down the west coast of Svalbard, and at this time of the year there is no ice. And unfortunately, until you hit the sea ice, you don't really see the bears. If you want to see the polar bears and the walrus, you can see the walrus on the beach, like we showed a couple of pictures at that old trapping station research camp. So you can see walrus in those places. But to be honest, you know, I think rarely will you see a bear on the land because they can't survive. They can't fish. They can't hunt. So even though the guides had the rifles and they had the flares and all that good stuff to just in case there's the bear, one of the guys was saying he's been coming there for 20 years and most of the time he's only ever had to fire a flare once in 20 years.
Yeah.
So you're not going to see the bears unless they're on the sea ice, and you're not going to see the bears on the sea ice unless you're in a class of boat that can actually break some of the ice. And as Lan said, they don't break virgin ice, they don't break solid sea ice, they push their way through the already starting to break ice, because the bears, while they can swim a short distance, you really don't want to encourage the ice to be melting quicker than it already is.
Mm.
So
how you say it's 17 days making the whole circle? Is it?
no, 7 days.
Oh, seven. And then it's like every day you have like land harp somewhere every day, or you have a certain day at the sea.
No. Well, every day is at sea because there are no ports. But
okay.
But you do land in the zodiac at least
Okay.
day mostly. So every landing is a wet landing.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
So you get off the boat and you get your feet in the water.
Okay.
So every landing is a wet landing. Every day we had, well, it depends. If the weather was really bad, then they would do one of 2 things. They would find a bay, a sheltered bay first to go on adventure. So one of the places we went, that beach, in fact, where we saw the eggs on the bird on the beach, that was chosen because the weather was stormy and it was a sheltered bay from the prevailing wind, and that's why we went there. So it's just by chance that we actually got to go there and see the Arctic fox and the bird. But just because we couldn't go where we were planning to go because the weather was too bad.
So 7 days is good enough to make a circle.
Yeah, that's actually this ship every week from we were the 3rd time, right? 2 weeks ago they made the first one because before 2 weeks ago it was so frozen, so they couldn't do it. As soon as the sun was melt, so every week they will go a circle with new passengers.
And the the boat we were on was the last one to do that, because now they've moved to Greenland. Because the reason they've moved, or they finished then, was when we left the port, there were basically
10 ships.
no, when we left, there was just 2 ships, us and 1 other ship. And when we came back, there were 8.
Yeah.
And luckily for us, there's only 1 dock, and this boat had the dock. Everybody else was taking to shore in Zodiacs. Their suitcases, the people, the passengers were all moving from the boat to the shore in Zodiacs. So
Captain 说哈，是他们每7天走1圈，但是只是走4周，4周以后这条船就跑到别处去了。他说的原因是4天以后破冰能力，那冰就化了，所以4周以后冰就化了，就不需要这个破冰的能力了。另外一个4周以后，就像温刚才说的，我们去的时候就是零零碎碎的2、3条船在那儿。等我们回来的时候，那就遍地都是船。所以如果大家都在那儿旅游的话，那 Polar Bear 就跑掉了，所以看到的机会就少了。所以你要想去的话，还是早一点好。
我刚才 miss 了古兰子，你们是什么时候去的？
我们是在这儿是6月17日开始的。
哦，
但我们路上走了好长时间，所以一共就是在这儿，就这个是6月17号。It's June 17 we started, and June 24 we June 17 we embark, and June 24 we debark. Yeah.
Yeah, close to that. Yeah. So yeah, that.
How advanced did you make this book this line?
Oh, we started booking this 2.5 years ago.
19,
Before,
That's what I suspected.
yeah, we booked it the first time for 2020, and then it got moved again to 2021 and then cancelled, and then it moved again to this year, and unfortunately it conflicted. It was exactly the same time as the Peru trip we had, so we said, okay, we have to change, and we changed to this one, and I'm glad we did change to this one, because the one that we had in May, early May, didn't actually go around the whole island archipelago, so it wouldn't have been as good. So this one was actually, I think this one was one of the more successful.
We were
trips.
just lucky.
We were lucky. Yeah.
Lucky.
I mean, there's so many things going against you because the weather, the ice, the storms. I mean, it's just hit and miss. And we only had a couple of days when it was sunny, but most of the time, except for
storm day.
Near the end, it was very stormy, and we basically had to hide in the fjords from the storm. But yeah, it was basically a very good trip. I think it's definitely a once in a lifetime thing to do.
So they provided the jacket, the blue jacket is provided by the boat.
Yes.
And in terms of the weather, it's so cold. And how's your battery hold on to when you're taking picture?
Battery doing fairly well. It's my fingers that weren't holding on. But the battery was doing okay. I mean, I took 1 spare battery for the Z9 and 2 spare batteries for the Z6, and was rotating them fairly rapidly.
还有一件事情哈，the National Geographic 和 B&H is lending lenses.
Oh yeah, so
that.
they had 2 National Geographic photographer folks on the boat, as well as a bunch of naturalists who were specialists in different areas. So we had somebody specialized in polar bears, somebody in walrus, somebody in the plants, somebody in birds.
他们一起组成了一
So
个
it's
导游
a
团队。
complete team. But from the photography point of view, the guy Mike, he actually a professional photographer for like 40 years, so he's my age basically, and he also ran the B&H locker. And in the B&H locker, if you are a Canon owner or an Olympus owner, or even I think a Sony owner, they have Sony, Canon, and Olympus lenses for those cameras. Nikon, unfortunately, don't use lenses. And so they only had Sigma lenses for the Nikon and Sigma f-mount lenses. So we did try one. Want the Sigma 100 to 400 just for the fun of it, put it on the Z6. It's not that good a lens. It wouldn't have done very well at all on the Z9, but the lower resolution of the Z6, it was passable, but it was hard to get focus, and yeah, it wasn't the best. But if you own Canon, you're in the best shape. They have the most stuff. And I think Sony and Olympus.
Are they free or is this a?
Yeah, they're free.
Like,
You
can check out
for 2 days.
and then another lens. If you want to try different lens,
Yeah,
you can check out. It's all free.
It's all free.
Oh, that's nice. It's very heavy. You have brought how many lenses? 6 lenses?
No.
Or how many lenses? Different size?
I have 5 lenses.
You bought 5?
But I didn't take them all. I didn't take the 300 millimeter. I only took the 500 and the
wide angle
and the 2 wide angles, the 24 to 70, the 14 to 24, which is this picture on the screen was taken with, and the 500, I think.
and there's no need to use a tripod.
It's hard to use.
Forbidden.
It's not forbidden. You have to get
It's
permission. You get ask permission. On your balcony, you can use tripod. The problem is that the vibrations of the boat.
I know. I just wonder.
Go through the tripod, and so it makes it's tricky. I mean, I did use a monopod at one point, and I put the monopod on my foot, on my toe, so that it had some vibration dampening. When we were taking pictures, for example, of the polar bear.
It's not only that. It was forbidden. They say because when the polar bear is there, everybody is on the deck. You know, if you have a tripod, it may trip somebody. So it's forbidden.
Oh.
Well, they said you could ask permission. So,
所以我们那个 tripod 是一次都没有用，下次你要去不用带了。
The point, when we were taking photos of the bear, most of the time we were stationary. I mean, the boat has amazing ability to stay put where the captain puts it. They say within 2 meters. You tell it to stay here, and it'll stay. And it has motors and engines that go sideways as well as backwards and forwards that will keep the boat in stationary in the position.
Really? Well, that's amazing.
Within 2 meters. So we just, and they have strict limits on the bears too. So the closest you can get to a bear intentionally is 300 meters. Usually it's around 500. And one of the bears, the one with the kill, we were going along, and I happened to be up on the bridge. They have an open bridge on this boat, which is good. So you can just wander up there whenever you want and talk to the people and see what's going on. And while I was up there, they saw the bear as they were steaming forward, and there was nothing they could do. It was too closer than they were meant to be. So they didn't announce it to the ship until they'd passed the bear, and then they did a U-turn and came around, and so they sort of like, no, it doesn't. They sort of passed the bear, and they did a U-turn and came back and faced the bear, because they want to have the least
300.
the least profile of the boat, the smallest profile of the boat facing the wildlife. So basically, the bear can only see this very narrow thing sticking it out of the water, rather than this very wide thing. So they don't get too scared.
有规定，船离 bear 的距离不可以打扰 bear， 你只能观察，不可以打扰它。所以最近的距离，你不管 bear 在哪儿，你船能接近 bear 的最近距离是300还是500米，所以 bear 都很小。
So when just curious, what made you to order that 800 lens?
Oh, I even on this trip, the 500 wasn't long enough. But for the birds I normally take pictures of, the 500 plus a teleconverter is, I mean, it degrades the picture enough. I've got the 1.4 E3, I think it is. So it's the latest and greatest 1.4 times teleconverter for the F mount. That degrades the picture significantly on the 500 millimeter PF. So, and that gets you to 720. So the magnification then is okay. What I have read about the 800 and people who've tested it, they say you can put the Z 1.4 converter on that. So that would get you up to 1100 and something millimeters if you wanted it. But the quality, there's hardly any degradation in the sharpness or the quality of the images, which is not the case for the 500 and the F mount 1.4. So I'm hoping that, you know, I mean, the reports I've seen from people who've already received that lens, there's a few out there on the internet, they're saying it's even sharper than the 500. And I find the 500 millimeter lens is the sharpest lens I have by far. And so it's pretty impressive.
Another question, once you mentioned that, you show a picture that have a red box focus on a bear, and then there is another one which is a focus more on the eye. Is that the two different features you selected? The
No.
one with a box have a wider space, bigger space. The one with
Okay.
face recognition, not this one, on the bear,
On the back, let's see if
which
I
is just a one dot. It's more like
so
maybe, yeah, that and the one below. Yeah, you see this one have a bigger square
yeah, so there's various
setting.
settings. So this one here is C1. This is a custom one. So there's two custom settings you can make. You can have a vertical one or this horizontal one. So C2 is the vertical, or it starts off as vertical. You could change it to horizontal. And so you can customize this as much as you like. You can make it bigger. I don't think you can make it any narrower height-wise, but you could make it wider. I could make it cover the majority.
No, the one, compare this one to the picture below. I'm wondering whether it's a two different setting.
No, this is the result. So this is the review of the photograph. This is the JPEG that the camera took.
Oh,
Just to show you that the red square here matches.
oh, even the red square, the whole
matches
area,
the
but
square
actually
here.
focus on the eyes.
It focused on the face.
Yeah.
It did
Okay.
not focus on the eyes. I don't think it understands what a bear is. I figured it might be as close to a dog as you can get, but it knows the difference between a dog and a bear. And while it knows it's an animal, it will not focus on the eyes. I never saw it focus on an eye, only the face. And some of the time it only focused on the bear. It knew it was an animal and it would focus on the shoulder of the animal, of the bear, as it was moving. So the other thing here too is this red square defines the starting point for it to start looking for an animal, which is why it's important. I mean, they have custom, you can have the whole screen, or you can have custom wide area, large, medium, and small. The small is ridiculously small. The large, in my view, is not wide enough. It's about 2/5 of the size of this square here, I think. So it's a bit impractical. So this is a bit more practical. So it's good that you can focus the camera, especially for a bird in flight, when it's flying around all over the place. I mean, you want to catch the bird. That white square will go outside of this red square once it's locked onto the bird, especially if you have it turn green, so it's in focus. So if you're on back button focus, it'll follow the face outside of the red square.
Have you tried, like, say you have 2 cats or 2 dogs? Will they focus on just one dog, or say 2 dogs, both of them? Like, say if there's 2 dogs side by side.
I
Or-
think it will focus on one.
Okay.
It might jump between them though, and that's why if you had 2 dogs side by side, you could use C2, which is a vertical version of this, and have it sitting on one dog, and so it wouldn't possibly go to the other dog. And then once it locks onto the face of the one, it should follow it. Now I've not tried this because we've only got one cat, but we could try it with people at some point and see if it would, how it jumps, because there's a setting in there to say, okay, how long do I assume this thing has been hidden behind some object? So if you've got a runner running and he goes behind a tree, for example, or a cat or a dog or anything, there's a certain amount of time it'll say, okay, I'm making some projections. This animal, person, whatever, is moving in this direction at this speed. I'll pick it up again when it comes out from behind that object. I'm not sure what happens if that object is another person, whether it'll jump onto that person or whether it will wait. That's a good question though. I like that. Yeah, I have to play with that a little bit. Yeah, I don't know the answer. But it's pretty sophisticated. I mean, it's way more sophisticated than anything I've ever used before. So, I mean, I've done some tracking with the D850, and it's not been that great. I mean, it's good, but it's not. There's nothing like this. I mean, the fact that this is mirrorless makes a huge difference to the capability of the camera.
Thanks. Amazing.
Yeah. When I heard you use 500 primary lens plus the 1.4 converter with Z9. So far, how happy with this compilation for this lens?
So I have the 1.4 converter for the F mount.
Yeah.
That is pretty good. I mean, it works reasonably well. If you've got subjects that are fairly close, so if you're taking birds, you know, in the trees nearby, so they're 10 meters away or less, then I think it's worth putting the teleconverter on. As you go to longer distances, I think it doesn't work as well. I don't know why that is. Closer focusing distances, the teleconverter seems to work better than the further distances. It's sometimes a toss-up though. Should you just blow the picture up? I mean, you've got 45 megapixels on the D850 and the same on this camera. So sometimes I think it's better just to blow the picture up and forget the teleconverter. What I've heard about the Z teleconverters, however, is that they are actually much better.
It's much better.
Yeah. So I mean, I have never, you know, I only have this 24 to 70 and the 14 to 24. So there's no need for a teleconverter with those.
Once you use that 1.4 converter, what's the maximum aperture you can get? It's 8 or?
Yeah, it's f8, yes. So on the D850, that also limits the metering and the focus. The focus especially, because you only have 9 points in the middle for focusing on the D850. The Z9, that isn't limited by that, just because of the way it works.
Okay, thanks.
The other thing you lose too, and that's one of the points I made at the beginning, was in the studio. The Z9, because it doesn't have cross focusing, whatever they're called. It only has horizontal lines, either vertical or horizontal. Sorry, it doesn't have any cross focusing points, phase detection focusing. So in low light, it has problems focusing. That's why some people have complained that in studio settings, if the modeling lights are not as powerful as they might be for a bright situation, the Z9 is not the camera for you. If you're a studio photographer, they recommend sticking with the D850. But you know, the converse is true also. You don't have any of those focusing aids when you put a teleconverter on the f5.6 lens, because all of that high-tech stuff on the D850 stops at f5.6, just because of the way those detectors, those pieces work. I remember reading about it once, but I think it's the amount and the angle of light hitting the sensors sort of quits at f5, just above f5.6.
Great.
Great, thank you so much. So
You're welcome.
if other questions, we can probably just share in the WeChat group, because now it's pretty late.
Yeah.
我觉得这个挺好，这个我们的 member 去其他地方了，然后呢 share 不但是摄影，也 share 一些 knowledge，for everybody。我现在看到那个最近有好几个去冰岛的，好像这个 Charles 现在还